Assalamu alaikum everyone. I'm Sania Gilani, your instructor, and this is the subject of Rise of the Novel 18th and 19th Century. This is our lecture number 25 on the topic, and today's topic is the landscape of fate, in which we are going to introduce ourselves to Thomas Hardy and his work Return of the Native. We will begin our study of one of the most powerful, atmospheric, and highly debated novels in the Victorian era. Thomas Hardy's Return of the Native was published in 1878. When you pick up this book, I want you to mentally clear away the Victorian drawing rooms you might associate with the era. There are no ballrooms here, no industrial soot stained London streets, and no polite society tea parties. Instead, we are looking at a vast, wild, brooding stretch of land that feels older than time itself. Edgin Heath. Thomas Hardy was a writer obsessed with the collision between individual human desire and the crushing, indifferent weight of the universe. In this novel, he asks a question that still haunts us today. Do we actually control our own lives, or are we merely actors in the play scripted by forces of chance, nature, and social expectations? We will first explore Thomas Hardy's background as a regional writer, then discuss his philosophy of human insignificance, and finally walk through the complex, tragic narrative of Return of the Native. Thomas Hardy and the world of Wessex. To understand Hardy, you must understand his roots. Born in 1840 in the rural county of Dorset, the heart of what he would later call Wessex, Hardy grew up in a world that was rapidly disappearing. The Industrial Revolution was tearing through England, and rural agricultural life was being swallowed up by modernity. Hardy was a trained architect before he became a novelist. This is crucial to note because it explains his structural mind. He viewed the world as a complex, decaying, and shifting edifice. When he wrote about the countryside, he wasn't being nostalgic, he was documenting a vanishing species of humanity. The Wessex phenomena is what Hardy took the real, muddy, historical landscape of southwest England and turned it into the literary landscape of Wessex. By doing this, he created a unified world where his characters could grow, suffer, and die. It allowed him to show how social class, local superstitions, and the sheer physicality of the land dictated human faith. In Hardy's novel, a character's geography is their destiny. Next is Hardy's philosophy, fate, chance, and the indifferent universe. Hardy is often labeled as a pessimist, but that's a superficial take. A better term might be a determinist. Hardy looked at the world and saw a terrifying disconnect. When people talk about a blind, purposeless force, humans have conscience, aching desires. We want love, we want status, we want meaning, but the universe is incapable of answering those desires. In his novels, this manifestation is chance. Hardy's characters aren't usually undone by grand epic villains. They are undone by the letter that arrives a day too late, a misunderstanding at a garden gate, a physical trait like bad eyesight that hinders a crucial decision. These are not grand moral failings, they are the accidents of existence, chances. In A Return of the Native, you will see that no one is truly evil, but everyone is trapped by the friction between their dreams and the reality of the heath. Next is the detailed summary of Return of the Natives. Now, let's move towards the narrative itself. The novel is structured like a Greek tragedy, unfolding in 5 books, plus a concluding book 6. Book 1 is about when Hardy begins by introducing the heath. He treats it as the protagonist, ancient, dark, and hungry. We meet Diggory Wen, a Riddleman, a man whose skin is permanently stained red by the dye he sells. He is the quiet, mysterious observer of the novel. We also meet Thompson Yeobright and her fickle lover, Damon Weldeave. Their marriage plans are stalled by social humiliation. When we meet the woman who ruled the imagination of the heat, Eustacia Y, she is a woman of intense dark beauty who views the heat as a prison and dreams of passionate life in Paris. Book 2 is the arrival of a native, Return of the Native. Climb Yeobright. who has been living in Paris, the very place Eustacia longs to be. But here's the irony: Climb has become disillusioned with urban life. He returns to the heat not to escape but to give back, become a schoolmaster for the poor. Eustacia sees him as a bridge to the city life and fundamentally tries to change him, which was a mismatch since the beginning. Book 3 is all about the marriage between Climb, Eubryte, and Eustacia. As discussed previously, in Hardy's story, the philosophy is that nature is the villain. The characters are forced to abandon things. Climb is also forced to abandon his books and become someone who has to do manual labor. Eustacia Y is married to a man who is not intellectually similar to her. His goals are not the same. Book 4 are when doors are closed. This is the psychological heart of the tragedy. Climb's mother, Mrs. Eubryte, never approved of the match between the two. She tries to reconcile with Climb, but a series of petty misunderstandings, a closed door, a delayed message, a moment of pride prevents them from speaking. Mrs. Eubryte, exhausted and heartbroken, walks across the burning hot heat and dies of heat exhaustion and a snake bite. The silence of the heat consumes her. Book 5 is the discovery of Climb when he realizes his wife's role in his mother's death. The marriage shatters. Eustacia Y feels trapped and sees that while Deef is still hovering in the background and decides to flee. In the night of terrible storm, she runs out into the heat. The book 6 is the aftermath. The storm mirrors the inner chaos of the characters. Eustacia Y, while running away, falls and drowns into the river. She dies. It is a poetic death, but it is gruesome nonetheless. Climb, on the other hand, has lost everything. He has lost his mother, and his wife is also dead. In the end, he becomes a preacher and has nothing to do other than stay in the heat. Whenever Hardy talks about his novels, he's basically holding a mirror in front of you of the Victorian society. Hardy's tragedy is not that his characters are bad. His tragedy is that they're human. They want too much in a world that gives too little. For him, nature is not evil, but nature always comes in between. In the coming lectures, we are going to elaborate on the different characters and how Eustacia Y is one of the most probably misunderstood characters in literary history. But to understand one thing about Thomas Hardy, and something that I want you guys to take away from today's lecture, is that whenever it comes to Hardy, unlike some of the previous novels that we studied, for Hardy, characters are just victims of their circumstances. In the grand scheme of things, it might not seem a big plot point that someone did not open the door at the right time, or someone slipped, or someone had a chance of, you can say, heat stroke at the right time, or in their case, at the wrong time. But isn't life the same way? Hardy, through his works, is obsessed with portraying how humans are trapped in a crushing system that is our nature and the universe, whatever our goals and ambitions are. If our fate does not allow that, we are not likely to have those things. So, forces of chance and nature are what destroys humans at their core. So, technically, no one is a villain, everyone is a victim of their circumstances. In the next lecture, as we elaborate on the story further and further, you will be seeing how this thing is relevant. But till then, Allah Hafiz, and I hope you understood something. See you guys soon.